Happy Friday, everybody.
And welcome to another handsome episode of the favorite podcast. And today, I just watched episode 12 of season 3 of Mad Men, The Grown-Ups, where so much happened. It was like, the episode was under 50 minutes, and yet it was like chock full of excitement. Well, chock full of just great stuff. It was nice to finally kind of focus on a little bit of Pete and a little bit of Peggy. It's been, I mean, look, Don Draper, Betty Draper, they are the stars of this show. The focus, I want to say the nucleus of this show is the Drapers and Don. But, you know, we've had a lot of them recently, which is great. And we've been missing out on some of our side people, some of our side characters, namely Pete and Peggy. So we got not a ton, but we got a good amount. And we still got plenty of Draper stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff happened. Inside the office, not much because of those issues with air conditioning and heating. And then a major worldwide event happens and they have to deal with it. So why don't we get started at the beginning? Now, I just finished it, and I actually remember how this episode started. It started with Pete asleep on a couch in his office, just all bundled up, freezing. Seems like the heat was off. And then later, it was so hot that they were sweating. So, yeah, I don't know what the point of that was, really, but it just kind of like you were frozen out, and then you got too much heat. I don't know, but Pete was called into Lane's office because, oh my God, I'm so bad with the names. I want to say Ken Cosgrove, right? That's the blonde fella. They've kind of had the same job, cut in half. And it looks like Ken got the promotion, and Pete has been given a new title. Pete was very robotic. He's like, "Thank you. I hope the decision was hard." But he went home, left early, saying he wasn't feeling good, and had that like sociopathic kind of like sitting there eating food in his apartment. "I got fired today." He didn't get fired. He just didn't get promoted. I don't know why he saw that as being fired, but I feel like he's short, or at least he's starting to feel short for his time at Sterling Cooper. He is ready to jet. He's ready to leave. He's telling his wife he should be calling Duck. She's like, no, they still want you. They still have, you still are a commodity to them. They still need you. You shouldn't do that. Because Duck, remember, he wants Pete and he wants Peggy. The thing is, he probably wants Peggy a little bit more. Why is that? Because he's calling her, and they're seeing each other. They show Peggy talking to her friend when they're coming back from lunch, and it was weird. They were like really insulting each other. It was like a weird passive-aggressive way of insulting each other. They were going to lunch and spending too much money at lunch, and then the girl the friend was saying like, "There's no good men," or she's being picky, and Peggy said something like, "Well, it's good that you're finally not." Just going with every guy, something like that. And then it came up about Duck and Duck not being married. And she looks at Peggy and goes, "Then why are you with him?" So it was very weirdly insulting to each other. But Peggy got a call once the heat was back on. She was in her office with what's his name. There's so many names. But the guy who thinks he's British and thinks he's better than everyone. He's not British at all. He just sounds very fancy the way he talks. Kinsey. They were in the office together, and Kinsey could tell what was going on the phone when the phone call came in. "Oh, my dog's getting up. Well, let's go on an adventure and take my dog out." So she answers the phone while they're working on something, and who is it? It's Duck. She says, "Mr. Henry's on the phone." Well, I knew who it was right away. You can hear the pitter-patter of my dog and the drinking of water. Let's get in close as the dog drinks water. Oh, hear the water lapping in his natural state. The dog likes to drink water, go outside, and make a mess. Better than inside the house. So she gets the call. Look, I'm not doing some crazy editing. This is you take it as you go. This is live, baby. She gets the call, and he's like, why don't you come right now? I'm at the hotel. And she's like, I'm working. And he's like, just, blah, 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 come. And Kinsey knew right away. And he's like, I know a nooner when I hear one. She's like, that's disgusting. But that was exactly what it was. Oh, did it rain out here? It almost feels like summer right now. I realize I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. And let me tell you something. We're in Boston, or north of Boston, in Massachusetts. And on Tuesday, it snowed here. And tomorrow it's going to be in the 70s. So that's New England weather for you. So anyway, she ends up, saying, okay, I'll be right over. Now, what I thought was cool, I'm going to close the door here, that I was like blown away as how they introduced this. So, what else was going, we haven't even got to Don Draper yet, I don't think. The Draper stuff happens, but it wasn't before the major event happened. So, Pete is in Harry Crane's office talking about advice, talking about television, and at the same time, Don, this time it's 100 degrees, Don is in Lane's office, and he's arguing about, needing money, or needing a director, and they're saying he's not in the budget. So there was like a lot of arguing going on, and Pete is, talking to Harry, and then in the background, on the TV, he's like, Harry, can you turn the TV down? Harry's like, not really, because that's his job, is to watch TV constantly and see what's going on. And just take my dog's chain off. He's good. We're good to go. Back inside the house. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give my dog a little treat for being such a good boy. So they're talking about, the position, and what Pete was looking for some advice. And in the background on the TV, you hear the special report, and it was like Dateline, Dallas, Texas, and it was Walter Cronkite, and it's there's a treat for you, buddy, if you want. It's like a very famous sound, very famous audio of talking about Kennedy. So I knew right away what it was, and they weren't even paying attention. And it was like, oh my God, this is it was amazing how they introduced it. Just like in the background, people are living their lives. Life is happening. It's the middle of a regular workday, and then boom, this happens. And all of a sudden, people start filtering in because they know that Harry has a TV in his office. And they're like, what the hell is going on? And he goes, you didn't hear? They flip the TV on, and they talk about Kennedy being shot and not knowing what's going on. And it was, amazing kind of, even though this was, a fictional telling of people, it's really cool, or really interesting. I would say cool. Very fascinating seeing them, having to deal with something very real, very, very, very catastrophic event in American history, and how the world kind of dealt with it. I wasn't alive during that time. My parents were. They were teenagers. And just seeing, how the world stopped and work stopped, and, people didn't know what to do, and women were crying, and it was just it was fascinating to see for me. I thought it was a really interesting way of, some people knew what's going on. Don's like, what the hell's going on? Phones weren't working. All of a sudden, all the phones were ringing, and then the phone stopped ringing. And at the same time all this is going on, Roger's daughter is getting married, and she is a real whiny, spoiled brat. And she's like, oh, I don't want to get married, blah, 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 blah. And there was some fun, conversations of Roger kind of on the phone with his ex-wife, talking about his daughter and how whiny she is and how he's just going to call the whole thing off. And the daughter's all upset because Roger's new wife, Jane, got her really nice earrings. And then Roger gets upset at Jane because he wants to keep them apart from each other because they're not even that much difference in age. And she's like, I'm trying to be a good person. And he's yelling at her. And she locks herself in her room. And he's like, what are you going to threaten suicide or something? And it was he was really angry. And I'm just glad I haven't seen them like hit their wife, because you feel like that could happen, especially in the 60s when these guys probably thought, well, I have a right to do these things. This is my home. And I'm just glad that hasn't happened. I hope it doesn't, because there's still some, even though Roger and Don aren't the greatest of men, there's still a sliver of likability that I feel like if they ever did something like that, I would lose, and it would be tough to get back. But she locks herself in the room, and he gets all, pissed about that. But that was earlier in the episode. I mean, really, I thought the episode was going to be a lot of Peggy, a lot of Pete, and it kind of took a turn when President Kennedy was killed. Duck, being just, I guess, super horny, was watching TV, and when Peggy showed up, he turned the TV off. He knew that Kennedy was shot. He turned the TV off because he wanted to get a little chicka bow wow wow. And once they were finally done, he's like, there was something on the news that kind of puzzled me, and I'd like to check it out. They put it on, and boom, oh, by the way, President Kennedy is dead. And they're like, what the hell is going on? And Peggy should have been like, wait, why did you shut this off in the first place? And Duck would have said, because I really wanted to duck you. Ba-doom-tsh. So, while this is all going on at work, we got Betty at home really sad about President Kennedy, and she's just kind of distraught. She's constantly crying, and Carla comes in, and she's crying, and the kids are kind of watching it, and Don comes home, and he's like, why are they even watching this? She's like, what am I supposed to do? Hide them from it? Oh my goodness, I'm yawning. I mean, then from there, Peggy was so upset that she didn't even get ready on, I think it was maybe Saturday, for the wedding. I didn't realize the wedding was coming up right after the assassination. I thought it was still a couple of weeks away or episodes away, but here we are. It's the wedding. Pete and his wife are watching on TV. They're getting ready to go. And Pete's like, I don't want to go, It worked the other day. They were like, life went on. They just like... he said something earlier. It was like, this guy's the president now. Nope, we didn't vote for him. I thought there was going to be real change. And people at work, they don't care. They just moved on. Some people were saying that he had a lot of enemies, and Harry Crane's trying to figure out what the money loss will be with all these commercials not airing. He's like, screw it, and I don't want to go. Well, they mean nothing to me. I really think he might be jumping ship to Duck. And his wife was like, you know what? You're right. Don't go. Screw it. She takes her shoes off, and they don't go to the wedding. And actually, it was a lot of people. It looks like a lot of people didn't go to the wedding, because when we get to the reception, there's a lot of empty tables. And they're like, come on, fill up. Fill the tables up. Come on, get closer. Everyone move up, because a lot of people didn't show up. A lot of people just stayed home because of the major tragic event. He wants to do a toast, and he realizes Jane, his wife's not even there. He goes in the back. A lot of people are watching. They're talking about Lee Harvey Oswald now, and excuse me. They were just more focused on that, because, and you could see that Roger was kind of pissed off at his wife that she wasn't out there to see the toast. That he was going to talk about her a little bit, but he did give a nice toast about his ex-wife, and gave a nice toast to his kid and his son-in-law. And then they had the dance, and on the dance floor, at the wedding was Harry Francis. The dude that Betty wants to, she wants to jump his bones, but it's like the on-again, off-again flirtatious, they kiss here and there. She's like, oh, of course he's here. Oh, he's with a young woman. Oh, good, it's the daughter. And they're dancing, and he's dancing with his daughter, and Betty's dancing with Dawn, and the daughter's like, why do you keep looking at that woman? He's like, what are you talking about? And Betty's all distraught, or she's all like kind of discombobulated because of him there, and Dawn probably thinks it's all because of President Kennedy. He's like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, and he gives her this kiss, and they have a nice kiss. That kiss will come up again a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, things seem to be a little better. They've seemed to be back on track. Earlier in the episode, the baby was crying, and she's like, I thought you went to work, but nope, Dawn was there holding the little baby. He's like, I've done this before. I thought I'd give you a break. And I've lost my train of thought. But, so you think things are starting to get a little better. But after the wedding, they're watching the news again, and there's, hello, I'm Lee Harvey Oswald being led out. I'm being led out by a couple of policemen, and it's Jack Ruby, bang! And, then Jack Ruby comes and shoots Lee Harvey Oswald on live television, and she reacts, oh my goodness, which is how probably millions of people reacted who watched it live. And she's freaking, she's like, what the hell is going on in the world? And Don's like, he puts his hand on, she's like, really? And she brushes him off and leaves, comes back and says, I'm going for a ride. I just want to be alone. Well, that's not true. She goes and meets that Harry dude in a parking lot, and they get in the car together, and they kiss, and he tells her, Betty, I can, I would leave the campaign for you. I could make you happy. She's like, I want to be with you. She's like, I have 3 kids. He goes, I would marry you. He was like basically saying, I will marry you. I'm only on the end of season 3. Who knows what's going to wind up with these characters? Because I feel like Betty is finally realizing that she doesn't have to be with Don. She knew that divorcee from season 1. And she sees her husband, and she's not really happy for him. And it's like, no, stay with Don. But, wait a second. 1 episode ago, Don was off banging the teacher. Don, don't forget, Don's a piece of crap. He's a shitty husband. And yet you root for him. It's very strange how you feel, because you're like, no, Betty, you must love Don. I just want Betty to stop with other guys and Don to stop with other women and just be happy together. And then you're like, oh, I can't believe Betty's doing this to Don. Wait a second. Don does this all the time. So you can't feel bad. You can't feel bad for Don, and you can't blame Betty. You just can't. But you do. But then you don't. And she came home, and she's basically like, I don't love you anymore. You've been lying to me for years. He's like, Betty, you're just upset. She's like, no, I'm not. You kissed me the other day on the dance floor, and I didn't feel a thing. And Don's like, I'm going to lie down. He goes, maybe you should lie down. He's like, I'm going to. And he goes upstairs to lie down. Or he goes upstairs. And John Hamm gets this. He can look mean and confident. And then he gets this look like my world is falling apart. This look on his face. It's like you get an Emmy just for having that look on your face. Because it was like, I can't believe, this is happening. The last episode, he kind of broke down and told Betty all about his brother, all about his father, all about these things that he's kept from her. And he was slunched over on his bed, and she was right there with him. This episode, he sits on a chair, almost like in the same exact position, slunched over, his head's down, but he's alone this time. And it's like, I wonder if that was kind of a double entendre. That double entendre, is that the right word? Yeah. I almost said, wait. I was getting that mixed up with Ménage à Trois, which is very different. So I don't know if that was kind of a kind of like a juxtaposition, like showing, did I just see something where last week he was there, but she was with him, this time he's there and he's alone? Could that be foreshadowing? I don't know. But he got up early the next day, went off to work, and kissed the kids. It looks like he went on a Sunday because no one was there, or a Monday. I think that was the funeral, so it was the day of mourning, but he decided to go in. He's like, I have to go. And the kids kind of looked at Betty and looked at him, and they noticed that there was nothing. They didn't even look at each other, nothing. They didn't say anything, but the kids definitely noticed. They picked up on it. They had to have. He goes into work, and he... Wait, was this when he sat alone? No. He goes into work, and he's with... and see Peggy there. Peggy's, working on stuff, but she's like, I'm going to go watch I just had to get out because my apartment was filled with people watching the funeral, get some work done. She's going to watch the funeral in Cooper's office, and he's like, no, I'm not going to. He goes into his office to fix a drink alone. And that's how the episode ends. I'm jumping around a little bit, but after the wedding, I want to say Roger put his drunk, tired, sleeping wife on the bed. She's passed out. And who does he call? He calls Joni. Because not only were they, lovers, which is just gross to say, but they connected, and she was more mature. She knew how to talk to him, and he knew how to talk to her, and they just had a playful way about them. So they talk for a few minutes about how crazy things are, about the daughter. The husband's at the ER. Life goes on. He's like, crazy, huh? Hey, you doing? You know, good. I just wanted to talk to you, Red. And it was just like, you almost feel like, oh, they should end up back together. That's who Roger should have left his wife for. But nope. He went for the younger one, who's now asleep in the bed. Trying to think what else happened in the episode. You know, Peggy, again, she's working. She was with Duck. I don't think she's leaving Sterling Cooper because she's doing good. But Pete, I have a feeling might, or at least might threaten to. You know, Don, I don't know. Last week he told his girlfriend, I can't do this anymore. He really wants to stick it out with his wife. And now his wife's like, yeah, I think I don't love you anymore and I'm going to move on. We'll see. I mean, we have one episode left in this season. Can you believe it? I have no idea what episode 4 is going to bring, but I can't wait to get there. But it's not season 4. We're not going to be there next week. Next week we'll be back with the final episode of season 3. And I can't wait to see how it ends. Usually it's with something where Don screws up and realizes, oh, my life is awful. But we shall see. There's been a great season of just subtly setting up the fact that, you know, Don hasn't been a great husband and Betty's really doesn't realize that she doesn't have to put up with it anymore. Maybe it's now because she realizes, hey, I have other options. I have 3 kids, but you know what, Don? I can finally say I don't love you. Why? Because I have a guy who does love me. Maybe if that guy wasn't there, she'd still be putting up with it, which is sad, but definitely a possibility. The title episode is The Grown-Ups. And it came up during the wedding where Roger was talking about, you know, everything that's going on and how we're supposed to be the adults here and these kids are helping us kind of be grown up. Or he didn't say that, but it was kind of that way. And you realize that the grown-ups are the ones that have to deal with everything going on. You know, the little kids were right there for everything. They were there for, seeing everything that happened to Kennedy. They walked in after the stuff that happened with Oswald. And they were there when Betty and Don just kind of looked at each other and walked off. So the kids are kind of there. We're dealing with all the crap from the grown-ups. I don't know. I try to make something out of the title. And that's all I could think of. So, my friends, I thank you. I thank you for listening. I thank you for subscribing. I thank you for supporting me. This is great. I can't believe I'm almost through 3 seasons. I haven't missed a Friday yet. No matter how late it is, I haven't missed one yet, and I appreciate it. And I can't wait to do it again next week. Right? Next week. But until then, I have to say thank you. Thank you for subscribing. We're everywhere podcasts can be found. Thank you for following me on Twitter at MadeMenPod. If you don't do that already, what the hell? It's not like I do a lot, but I post every time there's a new show up. And sometimes I post other times, otherwise. But if you could follow me, it'd be wonderful. And if you could do me a favor, okay? If you're driving in your car right now, roll down your window. Yes, I didn't say open your window. I said roll down your window because you're in a 1950s car. Roll down your window. Slow down to the nearest stranger and just tell them about my podcast. If you have a friend that you're visiting in the hospital because they broke their leg, tell them about my podcast. If you're going on vacation next week is Massachusetts vacation. Let's say you're going to Tennessee or Florida, someplace. Pull aside someone at Disney World or at Graceland and say, do you know about the Made Man podcast? And they're going to say no. And then you're going to pull out your phone and show it to them, and you're going to change their lives, which in turn is going to change your life, which in turn is going to change my life. And I appreciate it. I thank you very much. And I thank you for coming along with me on this. Did I miss anything in the episode? I feel like I'm just about to jump out. I feel like I covered just about everything. And a lot happened. A lot. Yeah, I think I'm good. If I missed something, follow me on Twitter and tell me. Yeah, I'm talking gibberish now. Thank you very much for coming along with me on this journey as I strive to become a made man. Go Bruins, go Celtics.
Fans not experts.